So of course we miserably failed this morning to make sure that the blimp looked like this from which the jumping was done. But we'll see what we do next I/O. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Appengine overview. It's a real treat to be here. We have some fun news to share with you. So for those of you out there on your live stream, don't touch that dial. And for everybody, and in particular those on live stream, here's a link for the Google Moderator for getting questions, and our suggested hash is IO12 and Appengine. So we'll be reminding you of this link for questions throughout, and we'll try to stay on schedule as best as possible to give room for Q&A at the end. So if by any chance you have no idea what Google Appengine is, this is what we strive for. We strive for a development platform in the clouds that makes it easy to write applications, simple to scale them to a global audience, and trivial to manage running them over time. The genesis for Appengine was the internal development stacks at Google and a desire by the founding team to package them into a form that lots of developers the world over can use. Since we launched in 2008, we stayed true to this philosophy, and success has followed. Adoption of Appengine has been remarkably strong, despite a few limitations. Appengine launched with in some minds, surprisingly short list of features and with a different approach to writing modern cloud applications. But it was truly a child of the new era of computing, creating an opinionated framework with large benefits to early adapters. Since the launch, we've been hard at work in fleshing out the platform, continuing our quest for the ultimate cloud platform service. Over time, as we continue to ramp our investments in cloud computing, we continue to build out our cloud products. In addition to Appengine, also over the last year and a half, announcing products like BigQuery, Google Storage for Developers, and Google Cloud SQL. In fact, traction has been quite remarkable, so I have a couple of fun numbers to share with you today. If we look at the month of the life of Appengine, we see over 1 million hosted applications. So we recently passed 1 million. Not all of them are written by everybody in the room here, but thank you to developers for using Appengine to develop apps. This is pretty awesome. Got to get you guys going here. Yeah, I'm not diving for a blimp, but this is still pretty cool stuff. The main storage system by many of these apps is our multi-data center high replication data store. And as far as we can tell, it's the world's largest third-party NoSQL system. In a given month, it processes over 2 trillion operations. Besides brand names and high-visibility startups, Appengine powers hundreds of thousands of applications that you've never heard of. In fact, we recently estimated the overall reach of Appengine applications, and it's pretty breathtaking. By our math, of all the internet active addresses that are active in any given week, so of all the internet IP addresses that we see being active in a week, over half of them touch Appengine in any given week. We can't track how many users that corresponds to, obviously, because there's hundreds of thousands of applications doing different. But it's a pretty sizable footprint. Obviously, we're curious about what's behind these usage numbers. So we look for patterns of usage to guide us to what features to prioritize. With over 1 million applications, the simplest answer to the question of what runs on Appengine is everything. But that's not really very interesting. We have seen some pretty interesting broad patterns, and they are quite illuminating. And in some ways, in hindsight, they're fairly obvious. I'm going to mention a couple of areas of particular Appengine traction. The first one is sometimes referred to as enterprise edge. So that's applications developed by traditional enterprises, but where the target is mostly external to the company. It can be to reach tens of thousands of partners or millions of customers. The second is a fairly obvious area, that of high-tech startups, which I suspect is a big representation of Google I/O participants. In particular, ones that are social or mobile dimensions. There's quite a number of successful smartphone and tablet applications that had parts or whole of their back-end infrastructure running on Appengine. The third one is not so obvious, and that's productivity software, and I'm going to talk about that a little more later. But first, I would like to invite on stage Robert Fay from a company that is a household name.
Thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Fay. I'm part of the Lowe's.com IT Solutions team. I'm going to take the next several minutes to talk about how we're using Appengine to provide a better online experience for our MyLowe's customers. So those of you who aren't familiar with MyLowe's, what is MyLowe's? It's an initiative that we launched last year to allow Lowe's customers to manage everything about their homes online. So they can manage and track their purchase history, as well as manage useful characteristics about their home, such as measuring out the room dimensions or recording how much it costs to mulch their yard. And as part of our mantra to never stop improving, we're going to be introducing a new file upload service using Google App Engine that will allow users to upload digital assets into their MyLowe's accounts. So we're going to walk through a quick demonstration of how that works. As my colleague here is setting up, let me just walk you through a quick use case how this might be useful. So say you were remodeling your kitchen, and as part of that remodeling, you need to buy a new refrigerator. You saw a new Samsung refrigerator that you really liked at Lowe's.com, decided to buy it. And for some reason or another, you've had bad experiences in the past with refrigerators, so you decided to buy the warranty along with it. Now, a lot of times with warranty purchases, you'll need to have the original purchase receipt as well as the warranty receipt in order to have any kind of service done on the product. And if you have trouble tracking receipts like myself, this new feature will definitely take the pain out of it. So as you can see here, my colleague logged into his Lowe's account. He's going to go into his home profile. And from your home profile, you can see you can enter in all sorts of different information about their homes. But for this demonstration, we're going to look at the Photos tab and the Documents tab. So you can see here you have the ability now to upload pictures. So say you wanted to upload a picture of the fridge that you just bought. Now keep in mind, all this upload feature is being done through the App Engine. So you took a picture of your fridge when you first bought it, and now it shows up on your MyLowe's account. If you click on the fridge itself, you can make useful notes. You can zoom also in and out in the picture. Okay. You can also have the ability to upload, in our scenario, the warranty information. So if we go to the Documents tab, so say I have the warranty saved on my computer. I just want to upload it to my account and forget about it until I need it. This is a pretty big file. So we're giving users up to 200 megabytes of storage space with file sizes ranging up to 20 megabytes. So now you have the document uploaded. If you need to ever refer to it again, you can simply click the link and it should show up. Download right there. And there's our warranty information. So like I said, what are we really using App Engine for? Well, App Engine provides us a useful set of RESTful APIs that we can use to upload files directly into cloud storage. What else does it provide? We're using the concept of service accounts. So MyLowe's customers only need to sign in once to access any information in their cloud storage. And I don't know if you were paying attention, but we also leverage the App Engine API image generation features. So anytime a user uploads pictures into their MyLowe's accounts, we generate thumbnails of different sizes that we use throughout the site. And we also do some MIME time checking, so we prevent users from uploading harmful files into their accounts. Why do we decide to go with cloud and App Engine in general? Well, as you may or may not know, Lowe's is not a software company. So in order to make this kind of feature work in our own environment, we're looking at potentially millions of dollars in upfront hardware investment. Whereas if we use Appengine, we're looking, worst case scenario, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And because this is a new feature, if it does take off, we know that Appengine can handle however many requests users throw at it and scale without a problem. That's pretty much it for my part of the presentation. I'm going to hand it now back to Peter.
Thank you very much. Software updates are available for your computer. Thank you, Firefox. Okay, I think we'll skip doing the upgrade here live. The cloud is interrupting my cloud talk. Did I need to get, there we go, all right. All right, thank you very much, Robert. So it's actually not a joke that Robert mentioned about looked at me on the, I'm actually remodeling my kitchen at this very day. I actually got a text from my girlfriend on the fridge that got delivered today. So I was going to put in a joke here about software and getting the kitchen sink because we actually bought it at Lowe's, but I'm going to spare you guys. If the use case of Lowe's is a very interesting one because it leverages the tight integration between Google Cloud Storage and Google App Engine. So there's a lot of use cases, in particular in Enterprise Edge, that really are storage-related problems that you need business logic and processing and identity and authentication and so forth around storage issues. And we already have quite a good set of integration features and expect to see a lot more because we think this is a really important use case of building things basically building logic on top of storage. And it's also, of course, a very good use case for platform as a service in general, because even though I'm sure Milo is going to have 10 million customers using this, the adoption rates are always going to be difficult to predict, so the usage patterns are going to be difficult to predict, and they don't really have to commit to any particular CapEx spending for this. So if you remember my slide from just before Robert joined me, the second area of usage that we found particular traction for Appengine is in startups, in particular with social or mobile direction. And a most excellent example is my next guest speaker. Welcome on stage, Elliot.
So, hi, I'm Elliot Crow, founder and engineering director at Getaround, where we're disrupting the transportation industry by enabling people to share their cars with others nearby. So, Peter asked me here to talk a little bit about Getaround and how we've grown with Appengine. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Getaround and then how we've grown with Appengine as a platform. So right now, there are 1 billion cars in the world. Each car sits idle about 92% of every single day. They're literally assets sitting unused all of the time. Getaround is here to solve that problem. Car owners make money from an idle car that they're renting out, and car renters can get a car when they need it. This changes the transportation game fundamentally from ownership to access. Getaround is a marketplace. So when you log in, you can browse through full car profiles that owners have built for their car. And when you find cars that you want, you can send out a request to that owner asking them to share their car with you. The owner can approve or deny. If they choose to approve it, they can send a digital key to you to get into the car without having to meet the owner and exchange the key. So Getaround started as a university project and made its debut at a hackathon in 2009, about a year after Appengine launched. In 2 days and about 4 hours of sleep, we built a mobile app in the backend infrastructure to connect owners and renters, and then call out to a piece of hardware connected to the door locks of the car that's being rented. This is actually one of Appengine's greatest strengths, the ability to go in and take an idea all the way to execution and launch a production web application in hours or minutes is something that Appengine has been really good at since day one. There's no configuration required. Google handles all the boring stuff, and we can focus on execution. In 2011, everything seemingly fell into place for us at TechCrunch Disrupt. So TechCrunch Disrupt is a major startup competition. It's a pretty big opportunity for us. In our case, we actually went on to win both the main VC-judged award and the Audience Choice Award. We were actually double-digit percentage of all the Twitter traffic during the main event. So that led to massive publicity, a 30x increase in traffic over that 1.5-hour period, and best of all for me, the huge opportunity for downtime of our service right when we needed it most. Ultimately, it is me who's responsible for keeping the website up, and right then, I was busy getting drenched in champagne. So you can guess how fast I was paged with our site going down. It was literally never. Appengine was great. It over-provisioned defensively, and our latency during this time of huge traffic went down rather than up. So Appengine has actually been pretty cool. In the last year, we've matured as an organization, both on the engineering side and as a business, and we've grown a lot. Right now, we actually have an inventory of thousands of cars, ranging from Nissan Leafs to Tesla Roadsters. And actually, we don't just have one Tesla Roadster, we now have 7 listed on the site that you can rent out at any point. And as we've matured, Appengine has grown as well. In 2009, Appengine was really good to start on. On the other hand, it had a lot of things that were missing. It had no SLA. It was missing the reliability of the high replication data store when we first started. You couldn't even process requests for longer than 30 seconds. There was just no way to do that. Over the last several years, the Appengine team, one by one, has been solving every single one of these limitations. So now, with Python 2.7 support, we can use a wide variety of external libraries on Python. We use a MapReduce pipeline now to power all of our weekly analytics and report generation over a now massive data set that we deal with. And recently, we've been able to move search, which was our last major component running outside of Appengine or in our infrastructure, from an external third-party index server to our own custom in-memory time series database, sitting on backends right next to our front-end instances in the same data centers. So just fairly recently, actually, it's pretty exciting. We're now able to run our entire product from end to end, from the web app and our mobile applications infrastructure to being able to call out to our hardware that we've built without compromise. The whole system is now running on Appengine. This last 2.5 years has seen a remarkable transformation. We've seen a remarkable transformation in the way Appengine has run. It started as a young platform, great for launching new products, to a mature and robust platform that we're proud to run all of our infrastructure on top of. And we've grown as well, from a hackathon project to a successful business with customers who love what we're doing. We're now 40 people strong and growing, so if you're passionate about engineering and changing the world, we're looking to more people to join us. So thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Thank you very much. Cool.
Great, thanks.
I got it. All right, thank you very much. So I was tempted to insert a joke about engines here, but I will resist that as well. So what we've seen are 2 great examples of successful Appengine use. The first one was enterprise customer-facing application, and the second one was a mobile startup created in the intensity of hackathons and then growing smoothly to be a successful company, and that's extremely exciting. The third area that I wanted to highlight today is a little subtle, which is enterprise productivity. We have customers developing hundreds of internal applications on a per-company basis on Appengine, and in some cases, including Google ourselves, thousands of applications. It turns out that much of the work that we've spent to make Appengine applications very simple to own and manage, we strive to make it trivial to be actually running it, in effect translates into a very low product lifecycle management cost. And this is very attractive to companies that want to be able to build and run lots of applications. So our next speaker is Mani, who is from OrangeScape, come up on stage, who will tell us a little bit about their workflow technology.
Thanks, Peter. So my name is Mani Duraisamy. I'm the co-founder and CTO of OrangeScape. I'm here to talk about a new workflow product called KissFlow. Now, what's this new product? Let's step back a little bit and understand why KissFlow. Now, most of us in this room already use Google Apps, right? It's not just us. 4 million businesses are already using Google Apps, right? So Google Apps is collaboration at its best. If you look at mails, docs, calendars, all of them allows you to do collaboration on cloud very easily. You can even put together very simple data capture applications on top of Google Apps and spreadsheets, right? Especially the spreadsheets and forms part of it. But beyond that, when the users want to implement a slightly more sophisticated enterprise application, let's say a workflow application like a recruitment application, or for example, a travel reimbursement application, right? Then we expect them to be superheroes. We want them to learn Python, Java, understand the data store concepts like Bigtable on top of Google App Engine. Now, we thought, how would it be if you can leverage the power of Google App Engine and make the workflow product as simple as using Google Apps? That's basically this new product. Today, we are excited to announce the availability of KissFlow, a simple and smart way of building workflow applications for Google Apps. It's the first workflow product exclusively for Google Apps, and it leverages the full power of Google Cloud, which means it runs on top of Google App Engine and Cloud SQL. And it integrates with Google Docs and also Google Contacts for collaborating, and all of them comes within your workflow. That's the beauty of it. Let's take a quick look at how workflow can be built on top of KissFlow. Okay, so I think we are up on this screen, on both the screens. So this is how the workflow looks like, building process looks like. So let's say, for example, this company, .NET Enterprises, wants to clean up their travel claim workflow. It asks our Bruce Wayne, who is the head of the department, to create a workflow for automating this process. So KissFlow gives you a very simple 5-step process to create a wizard. First, you start off with naming the process, and then you go into creating the fields in the process. Like, for example, in the case of a travel claim form, you have the purpose of travel, which is what you capture to claim the amount. And then you have the description. And you also have fields like, for example, amount, the date on which the amount was spent, and so on. So once we complete creating this process, once we complete creating this form, like, for example, you can add amount, which is basically a number field, and I can also make it as a required field, and you can save this field, and that completes how expense claim form will look like, right? So once I complete that, I can go and define a process, a workflow process. A workflow process for travel claim would be typically a 2-step approval process. Like, for example, first you might want to send it to the department head for approval, right? So let's add department head approval, which we will assign it to 2 users. One is obviously Bruce Wayne himself, and then we will assign it to another user. Like, for example, in this case, we will assign it first to Harvey Dent, and then we will assign it to Bruce Wayne. So you can see that we are not trying to integrate anything with Google Apps. All of the users get synchronized directly from Google Apps into KissFlow. Similarly, we will add the second step, which is for finance approval, because finance team would want to do the approval themselves, right? So in this case, we will assign this to a Google group. So anybody in this group can approve this request. Again, you can see you can centrally manage all the user management and group management without having to define roles and manage all of those things. So once I am done with the process creation and the form creation, I can publish this process. And this is how it looks at in the runtime. So you have a very similar Gmail-like look and feel. And I can initiate the request where I can see the expense claim, and I can initiate the expense claim request. So this is exactly how you saw in the form design UI, right? So I can define, I can enter the process purpose. Like, for example, I've broken my car, and then I can specify it's an official expense, and I don't know how many people will claim breaking a car into an official expense. We'll put some amount as 4,000. And I can also attach a document directly from here. Like, for example, I can attach a travel document so that the next set of approvals can look at this document and do the approval. So once we are done, I can submit this item. So this item from the initiator will move into the next step. In this case, we defined department head approval as the next step. So I can go into approve request, and then I can see the progress of my entire process. Like, for example, I have initiated from Bruce Wayne, and it's waiting for department approval. Bruce and Harvey are the people who can approve it. So I can click on approve. So if I click on approve, it goes into the next stage. This way, I have completed my automation of the process, and I can also track through the progress of the process without having to do any coding at all. Right? That's the purpose of this product. Now, it's not just about tracking of the workflow. You can also do reporting on top of this workflow. For example, if I go to a reporting tab, I can look at the items as to how these things can be filtered and reported, right? So with that, let me go into the summary of KissFlow. KissFlow is a very simple and smart way of building workflows, no technology knowledge required, but it also seamlessly integrates with Google Apps. So you get all the goodies of Google Docs, Mail, and Contacts, but it leverages the power of Google App Engine and Cloud SQL. So when you log in, you have a separate Google database, which is a Cloud SQL, allocated to you. So you don't have a problem of sharing. It's standardized for all the enterprises because most of the enterprises use RDBMS, right? So you get the power of Google Cloud as well as the power of Cloud SQL. So thanks for your time. We are at Sandbox. You can always visit us for more demo because there is quite cool stuff that's around there. And you can also try it out at www.kissflow.com. Thank you.
I need the clicker. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, where we have a couple of improvements to announce to App Engine today. So for that, I'd like to welcome on stage Greg D'Alessandro, the lead product manager of Google App Engine. Take it away, Greg. Let's hear it.
Thank you, Peter. So I know we're running out of time, so I'll try to get through this quickly. We've made a lot of improvements to App Engine, but I wanted to give you a little bit of insight of what's been going on with App Engine since we came out of preview in November of last year. We've continued our rapid pace of innovation, continuing to produce approximately 1 release per month, including such things as Python 7, backup and restore, traffic splitting, threads, but a number of improvements that have happened over the course of the last 6 months. Today, though, we want to talk about 1.7.0. In 1.7.0, we have a number of things coming into general availability that people have been requesting for, in some cases, a very long time, as well as some new surprises. The first I'd like to talk about is SSL for custom domains is finally going into GA. There are 2 flavors of it. There's SNI, which works, which supports the majority of browsers, but for some people, some of their applications, it doesn't support it. So we also support a VIP option. SNI is a little cheaper because VIPs, we actually need to give you a dedicated IP address, which, if you can believe it, is expensive. Single VIPs and SNI can actually support multiple applications by use of wildcard or multi-domain certificates. All right, I'm going to start talking fast to make sure we get all the information out there. Cloud SQL, again, one of the most requested features for App Engine today is going into open signup, so now anyone can use Cloud SQL. Cloud SQL is a MySQL database in the cloud, easy management, so zero admin configuration, synchronous geo-replication. It's already being very heavily used by a lot of our customers, including OrangeScape, as you just saw. And there's zero admin from configurations backend. Next, the search API. So we released our experimental search API approximately a month ago. I just wanted to highlight that that experimental search API is out there, and as of 1.7.0, we've actually added in geo-point support. So you can make location-aware searches. This is one of the biggest requests we had for search, and we just added it in this release. The search API itself allows for the indexes are schemaless, giving you scalability and flexibility in your search indexes. You can do things like custom scoring and snippets, et cetera. Next, Google App Engine European data centers. So Google App Engine is now being hosted. Google App Engine is now being hosted out of both the US and the European Union. So this is for customers who are interested in running their applications out of the European Union, either for performance reasons for their customers in other parts of the world, or for compliance reasons. When you run out of the EU, your application instances run out of the EU, but all of your end user data is stored at rest in the EU as well. This is launching today for Premier customers. Simultaneously, we also have local contracts available for Premier customers in Europe, as well as local currencies such as British pounds, euros, yen, and Australian dollars. There's some international people out there that are very excited about that. Next, page speed service for App Engine. Let me show you a little bit of a demo on this. This is actually the blog for an App Engine customer, Pulse. What you will see here is the before and after. So you'll notice, if I can pause it, after about 1.8 seconds, everything had rendered on their blog initially of what they needed, and then full rendering was done in 8.2 seconds as opposed to the 11 seconds that it used to take. What page speed service does, it's a service we launched a little while ago at Google in general, but we've now made it available to App Engine that you can enable with a single click. It automatically optimizes performance, such as image optimization, deferring JavaScript loading, inlining CSS and JavaScript, rewriting cache headers. Does all of the stuff you need to do to increase performance. And let me move on from that, because who knows what's going to be on that YouTube. Yeah, there we go. The next thing I wanted to talk about was cloud endpoints. This is the last thing I wanted to bring up, but it's frankly one of the things I'm most excited about. It's really in the spirit of App Engine. What we brought you with cloud endpoints is a really easy way to make mobile backends and backends for web-based applications using App Engine. So it exposes a REST API for Android, iOS, and web applications. There's a JavaScript client library, strongly typed client libraries in Java and Objective-C, as well as we take care of all that OAuth 2 that no one wants to learn about. The whole goal is really to make it so that if you're building a mobile application and you want a backend on your mobile application, it's really easy to use App Engine to get that done without having to learn all the details and do any of the heavy lifting. In many ways, it's the promise we've always wanted with App Engine. All right, that's 1.7.0 in a nutshell, and I don't think I've ever talked that fast before. But that's 1.7.0 in a nutshell. We wanted to save a little bit of time for questions, and I know there are probably a couple out there. So the last thing I want to do as we're answering questions is please come visit our Partner Sandbox. There's a number of customers that are using App Engine in the Partner Sandbox. You can talk to App Engine developers in the sandbox. We also have crazy plushies over there that you could probably sweet talk your way into. T-shirts, custom chocolate bars, and gel skins. It's a lot of swag this year. So I think we have a couple minutes if people have any questions. I see someone getting up now, although you might be leaving.
Do we have a microphone?
There we go.
Hi, I had a
Start
question.
with the Nodejs question. Go ahead.
I had a question about the control over synchronization across continents. Do you have the ability to, for example, block an App Engine from being replicated over to like the EU?
Is your question, if you currently have an App Engine in the US and you want to move your application over the EU, how do you do that?
Well, we want to restrict it to a particular continent.
To both. Right. So as of today, the way it works is you choose when you create your application if you want it in the EU or if you want it in the US. So we don't currently have a way that your application can be shared across both places, although you could build your own structure for essentially storing data and routing traffic into the appropriate location.
And to be clear, that's a feature,
yeah.
Right? That's very intentional. In fact, we had to do engineering to not have data going back and forth because we want to be able to, for all European customers, to be clear that unless they say very specifically otherwise, the application end user data resides in the EU.
I'm a federal government customer, which is why I was asking, because if we wanted to create App Engine applications for enterprise, we wanted to make sure that remains within the continental U.S.
I'm sorry, I don't think I got
We
the last-
wanted to make sure that the application remains in continental U.S. if
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, sorry, that's the feature that Peter was referring to. We make it very clear you choose either US or the EU. We don't automatically share your application anywhere. You're making an explicit choice where you want to host your application.
Thank you.
So we have some moderator questions, so I'll read them. For first one, where do you think GE pricing is heading? As developers leverage the platforms more and more, pricing certainly becomes one of the main selling points. And stay tuned. We are working on some news on that did not make the press line for Google I/O, but we're very aware of it. And
Let's be clear, good news.
yeah,
on
good
that.
news. Yeah, we should be very clear on that. Yes.
I was on stage
Sorry.
last year with some other news.
Yes. Yeah. So we're not raising prices. We are looking at various forms of more control for customers and more options. So it basically to allow, as your application becomes bigger, what we found is that when you're a startup and you're earlier building small applications, you're not very sensitive to inefficiencies of your design. But as you scale up, Appengine provides all these wonderful ways of shooting yourself in the foot because it's very easy to use. It's very easy to start using a lot of resources. So we find that larger customers with larger footprints need to have more options to trade off between features and capabilities and price. So stay tuned on that. We hope to have updates on that no later than Q3.
Should we take another live question?
Let's do 2-1.
Oh, sure.
Because this is all the live stream folks as well,
Okay.
right? The second one is Appengine just released OR queries in the new SDK. Are these true OR queries, or do they do multiple queries then merge the results? If so, how does the billing work on these? So let's do an audience question.
I tried, man, I tried. I'm looking down to the Appengine team in the audience. That's a detail I don't know off the top of my
Everyone
head.
is looking at somebody else. All right, should we? So let's do an audience
Yes,
question.
yes.
We'll get back on this.
As they're texting the people who do know the answer to that question.
So you're not going to get away from answering cost information that fast. Actually, my question has to do with how should large companies deal with deployments of Appengine applications in terms of cost, because they're unknown. Basically, there's the App Premier or the Appengine Premier. There's a bunch of costs associated with anything you do, and at the end of the day, budgeting-wise, it's a nightmare. How do you even know what this application is going to cost, and should you have done it in-house versus out, send it out? Are there any tools, for example, if you use Django inside to be able to instrument these things and be able to at least get a baseline or an idea of what this thing's going to cost?
So in general, the best way to understand how much your application is going to cost is by running it and load testing it to get an understanding of the number of, whether it's the number of users you have or the number of calls or whatever is the metric you're looking to scale to understand how many that you can handle with an individual instance. The way Appengine pricing works is either you're paying per API call, which are very set, or you're paying for instances, which are a combination of CPU and memory, and it's how we run your application. Because the instances are the code you write, the only way you can really know how many instances you're going to need are by load testing it and seeing how your application does behave under load. So the way to understand and predict how much Appengine will cost is by essentially running your application there and testing it and seeing what it uses. It's part of the reason we give a free quota so that people can test applications out there to see what it would take to run.
So I'd like to add 2 things to that. So we see these things in the enterprise space falling down in 2 broad areas. One is the load testing, where we're looking at ways to make it easier for you to build load tests and cost estimators and so forth. We're looking at those things. And the other area is around of control of costs, which as your developer team, especially in an enterprise case, starts growing up, you need to have, in Appengine, if you create a Premier account, you have basically you have very coarse-grained controls on the budgets, and you need to have more fine-grained ones so that some arbitrary contractor that you bring in doesn't change a set of indexes, and before you know it, you're burning through 100K more a month than was necessary because it wasn't being caught and things like that. So those are the two areas that we're looking at, that we're working on bringing new things. One is to make it simpler, because you can do it today, do all the benchmarking and measuring yourself, but we need to there are lots of things we can do to make that simpler for you. And the other one is to provide more fine-grained controls around budgeting.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely.
You want to do another audience one? Because I'm scared now of the online
Well,
questions.
any news on SSL with custom, using SSL with custom domain? Yes, there is news. It's now
Oh, that was a
GA.
good one, yeah.
I love answering the easy questions.
Yes, we now have it. Because of the limitation of Google App Engine, many useful Python libraries couldn't be used on the Google App Engine platform. Is App Engine team planning some way to solve the problem to prevent developers keep rebuilding the wheel? Yes. Question from the audience?
Okay, I'm looking for a CouchDB type replacement. So regarding like the enterprise edge, I'm really interested in the enterprise synchronization across Europe and the US, but I'd also be able to like to synchronize into a disconnected device when it's disconnected. So if there's a pilot flying around in a 747 who's carrying an Android, when it lands somewhere, I'd like to be able to synchronize. And of course, when he's up in the air, he can't do that for different reasons. Same for precision agriculture, the same for actually military logistics.
All right, so those are sort of two different areas. Synchronization between the EU and the US. We're for now not looking at any particular features. You need to code that yourself. And the reason for that is very intentional. It's that you own the legal and whatever consequences there are of those algorithms. So we don't want to be in a situation where a corporation in Europe who is jurisdictionally required to keep end user data locally, because of some setting in some dialog box somewhere, suddenly got synced over to US Supreme Court jurisdiction, right? So this is actually a feature that we very explicitly want to make the developer problem, so that the developer can decide on the policy, so that Google can just say, no, this is the developers decided for, and it's the developer's responsibility. The other one is synchronization between App Engine and mobile devices, and that goes down to this. Was that the other part of it?
Yeah, really, how would I synchronize from App Engine to a disconnected Android device?
Right. So for us, that's higher up in the stack. So there are lots of other cool talks at Google I/O about how to do modern web applications. I would direct you to the talk that Dan is doing on Dart and using it. So we have various on web app. We have various web stack technology stuff going on to make that simpler. From the App Engine point of view, that is the application layer, right?
Okay, thanks.
And speaking of talks, I would highlight that check out all the sessions around cloud platform. There's a session tomorrow morning around cloud endpoints to go into a lot more detail about how to use them and how to build them. I did mention I was excited about it, so I'm going to mention that talk over and over again. There's also a talk on Friday about optimizing your App Engine application. So there's a number of talks over the course of I/O around using App Engine. I think there's a Python 2.7 talk tomorrow as well.
Want to take an audience question? Oh, go ahead. Alternate?
Okay. I want to understand that in Asia, do you have any plan?
Do we have plans for Asia,
Yes.
Asian data centers?
Yes.
Was that the question?
We have nothing to announce today. Yeah. The thing is, for App Engine, so one of the things I wanted to emphasize is that App Engine runs on many data centers, right? So we don't have a single point of failure on a data center. So as opposed to some cloud products, we can't say we're in a region just because there's one data center there. We have to have several. And so we have to have a pretty large footprint. So we currently have sorted that out in Europe. And we've said before that with HRD, we can handle more than one data center failure, right? So we're running at a set of data centers that are spread apart over multiple countries. And we've been doing US for several years. In Q4 last year, we went out of preview and became a fully supported commercial product. And this year, we're announcing Europe. So you can extrapolate from that curve on what we're likely to be doing. One thing we have said is that Japan is App Engine's second largest customer, which is awesome. So Asia is very big. So we'll take an online one here. Could you please provide the roadmap to improve the data store backup restore functionalities, and particularly the restore by namespace? We are working on this as well.
We are
Nothing
indeed.
specific to announce today.
And I didn't mention it as part of 1.7.0, but as part of 1.7.0, there actually was an improvement to backup and restore in order to allow you to restore to a different app ID after you've done a backup. That came out in 1.7.0. I just gave the highlights, but you should definitely check out the release notes for 1.7.0. There's a ton of new stuff in there. But the namespace, the specific question around backup and restore for namespace, we've definitely heard before, and we are looking at.
Does Appengine plan on integrating with any version control systems such as GitHub project or Subversion? We have looked at this in the past. We've talked to some of these players in the past. We're probably going to have a second look at that. It's something that makes a lot of sense. So I think the short answer is yes, we plan on developing integrations or facilitating for integrating with version control systems. Do we want to take a?
Yeah.
Any plans for support of Node.js or other languages?
Yes, more language supports. Yes, we want to add more languages to Appengine, and we're working on it. We have nothing more to announce at this I/O, unfortunately. Another online. Appengine continues to be compared to traditional relational databases. Do you see Google making it even more easier for developers to transition by adding features to Appengine, documentation, use cases, et cetera? Yes, I think we're doing quite a lot. So the usability of the data store, of the Google NoSQL solution, I think over time has been adding features and reducing the restrictions that are fundamental, that have been viewed as being fundamental between SQL and NoSQL. I think we're going to continue down the path, if we take the 30,000-foot view, of cloud-based SQL system becoming faster and more scalable, while at the same time cloud-based NoSQL systems slowly start shedding the historical limitations of what sort of queries and processing that you can efficiently do against them. And then in the not too distant future, I think actually we're going to end up having not much of a difference between them. So one of the things that we're trying to do with Appengine, with the addition of Google Cloud SQL, is not just SQL per se, but it's to provide MySQL interface that has a lot of aspects that people are very familiar with. So we're trying to create an environment in Appengine where if you want the very scalable in terms of lots of queries, of the kind of types that web applications do, can scale great. Whereas if you have the sort of account data or internal application data that requires SQL reporting or things like that, you can put those in Google Cloud SQL. So I think what you can anticipate us doing in cloud in general is to continue to improve data stores capabilities and working on reducing or minimizing the restrictions that NoSQL have historically done, while at the same time improving the integration with SQL. But for a long time, I think you're going to have to be, the best way of building applications is to think about, okay, what data naturally resides in Memcache, what naturally resides in a NoSQL part, and what naturally resides in the SQL part. Want to take a?
Yeah, let's take a live question.
Every Appengine developer in the enterprise eventually has a conversation, usually with boss of the boss of the boss of his boss, where the assistant executive vice president says, but my data is precious, it's mine. How can I trust that Google will not take it and do what we are doing, but better? So what is the answer? What are the guarantees?
Well, so a couple of the guarantees we make are legal ones. If you read our terms of service, it does say what we can and can't do with the data. I know that there are a lot of people have asked a similar question of like, are you going to take my data and put it into a search index and make search all that better? First of all, I think we'd have a hard time understanding your data to try to put it into a search index. But secondly, contractually, we can't. We basically say that we can't take your data and then reshare it. We only we essentially can use your data for the purpose of providing you your application, not for essentially anything we want. But this is one of the transitions that's going on in the world right now, is as data is moving into the cloud, there's some people get anxious about it, and the best that we can do is show that we've never done that. We've never implied we're going to do that. We've never hinted we're going to do that, and we have contracts saying we can't do it. beyond that, other than me going and talking to them and saying, no, seriously, we're not going to do it. It's hard to make more guarantees than that.
So I've been over the last year, I've been on a number of panels and discussions around the world where variations of this topic comes up. And I've been on stage in various combinations with pretty much all the other large public cloud providers, all the names you've all heard of. And there's a pretty strong consensus in the industry, of at least us vendors, that we're seeing all of our enterprise customers adjusting to the absolute opposite point of view, which is that the enterprises start trusting the public cloud provider to manage their data more than their own capabilities of doing it, simply because we live and die by this, right? I mean, Google fundamentally, from the start, has had a huge element of handling privacy implications, legal implications, cross-jurisdictional issues about all the data that's in Gmail, all the data that's in Docs, all the data that's that we're crawling everywhere, all the various challenges we've had with things like Street View and so forth. So Google's DNA from the ground up is totally even oversensitized to these issues. So actually, one of the reasons we've had, maybe I even shouldn't say this, but one of the reasons we've been challenged with adding more languages to Appengine is precisely because of internal security concerns, right? So we have so many layers of approvals and review and audits and design commentary and so forth that it's very difficult for us we can't just start building shit and running it on our data centers. It's not allowed, right? It's a public fact that Google has over 300 full-time engineers that all they do is security, right? So whenever you read about the various security breaches that happen to companies, you never see it happening with the large public cloud providers, because that is our bread and butter. But that said, as anybody who actually knows things about security, there's no such thing as the 100% guarantee. But this pervades all of our activities in building these services, right? So, and one of the things I would say to your boss's boss is that almost 50% of the Fortune 100 companies' SEC filings are now done on web filings, which runs on Appengine. So I've been on numerous conference calls with CIOs of Fortune 100 and a couple of CIOs from Fortune 10 companies and walked them through these issues, right? And what tends to happen is that there's pushback and they don't quite understand it. Then they realize, oh, okay, the public cloud is if anything safer than running it yourself. It's very, very difficult to have high security yourself, right? It's a little bit like driving versus flying commercial airlines. You think that you're safer because you're in control. The reality is that pilot's probably a better educated flyer than you are. Should we cut it right there?
Yeah, we could do one more.
One more? Let's look which one it is before we do. Logs of the Appengine are close to impossible to use. Are there plans to support better search and browsing capabilities?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely, without question.
Actually, when I joined Google, this was one of the first things that I think after 6 weeks I said, can we please add better logs processing systems? So yes, we are working on a lot of stuff, and in fact, I think you're going to see us leapfrog from like one extreme of having a pretty, I'm not going to use derogatory words about our own product, but challenging environment for managing and searching and analyzing large logs to the other extreme where we plan to have the best logs management support system on the planet, and you should expect Google BigQuery to be a big part of that. Thank you very much, everybody.
What? Oh yeah, Code Lab when's it Code Lab? Oh. There's a video of a Code Lab showing how to get your Appengine logs into BigQuery to do analytics on your logs. That was a Code Lab that happened earlier today.